Collins, please. Paul is freshly back from somewhere sunny and
from 2 weeks in Australia,
spectacular.
Mr. Chairman.
So
it's my first day in the office. So Mr. Collins and Leanne Hooper have completed this with much success, I'm sure. So I'll hand over to Mr. Collins.
Great. Good morning. We are bringing the audited annual report this morning for adoption. We had a look at that in a draft form in last council meeting, and since then the audit have done their thing, made a few changes as auditors do. Nothing, I think, substantial. We have laid out a couple of the bigger ones which we wanted to highlight to you on point 10 of this paper, 10 to 14. So I'll just go through those quickly because that's probably the major things from where we were last time we sat around this issue. One area they wanted to clarify was the legal fees to do with the... Oh, sorry, sorry, number 9. I've got a slightly different version. We've got legal fees to do with the building remediation work. We had those just sitting with all the other costs in regards to the building. They wanted to separate those out and have those on our P&L for the year, so we've made that change. That had the effect of increasing our operating deficit by that amount, but as pointed out by the auditors, that was something that we needed to do. So that is one of the points. And we also received, after the fact that after last council meeting, I received there were 2 outstanding valuation reports that we'd now got in. They were for the Raffles Street building over the road and our hydrology assets, and there was a slight fair value loss on those 2 of 38,000, which we have made that adjustment in the accounts as well. And the only other kind of major one is just a shift on our balance sheet of the Dalton Street remediation work. The auditors wanted that to be set out under our fixed assets as a work in progress. We had that under our receivables as a work in progress, and they just wanted to make that change as they were uncertainty regarding how costs will be, the legal proceedings regarding that, so they've just made that change for clarification. So those were the major changes. I guess it's just if you had any questions on any of those or anything else through the annual report that you wanted to talk about, we can go through that now.
Sure, there are a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so attachment 2 is the full copy of the audited annual report.
Everything on page...
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, on page 8, which is it's on the rates, Mr. Chair. Have you got the same page as us?
I think so.
The rates?
So is that the page...
Attachment 2.
Attachment 2.
Page 8. The rates little graph
right,
there.
Yes, so I'm with you now, sorry.
There's a little graph there, Mr. Chair, which goes up to 2017. How will those, given that there will be a, if the Ruataniwha Dam goes ahead and the current $80 million that will be invested in that, how will that affect the rates for a longer period? Because I understand there will be, that will affect the finances for some time out. And there also won't be income from that $80 million, which is we're currently getting through either the leasehold land or other investments.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Until the Hawke's Bay Regional Investment Company present to this council their financial feasibility for the Rua-Taniwha. Firstly, that needs to happen. Is it feasible, and should it go ahead? Is there a recommendation for council to put in the 80 million? And if there is, then HBRC need to submit to council how they propose to fund council's costs of the 80 million. And indeed, council, I think that's the process that will happen, and the incoming council will receive that information and make a decision at that time. The impact on rates will be obvious at that time. They may well be no impact at all.
Just following that up, what about the fact that that $80 million is actually taken out and put into the dam? That will have an effect. Surely that will have an effect on rates.
No, not necessarily, Councillor. Our investment company, when they ask council to put in funding, which they're fully aware that funding yields income for council, then their proposal needs to cover all those aspects.
But Mr. Chair, if that is going to be funded, for example, through sale of leasehold land, well, there's not going to be the income from that leasehold land to come into council.
He's answered the question, Councillor, because until we see the final construct, how can he answer the question?
Well, we do have a budget, though, for the dam. I mean, surely we've scoped it out. So I'm just asking what is the ongoing implications for the rates, and because that's my understanding that that they will be affected. Is that wrong?
Yeah, I'm not aware of where you get your understanding that they'll be affected, but as I say, the council haven't made a formal commitment to put an 80 million into the Ratification. We're all aware of that. The investment company will be submitting to this council early in 2014 a proposal for the Ratification, and the financial feasibility for that project will be submitted by them. At this time, I don't think anyone is aware of what those final proposals will be.
Councillor Douglas.
Mr. Chairman, I won't go into that too much, but in the LTP, all that's covered in terms of how the difference between the two parts will work, the investment income and the Ratification income should it occur. We had quite a major discussion last time about the parent company accounts, so I'm really not going to refer to that. It's the first time I've seen the group accounts, and I just wonder if somebody might care to take page 125 and 129. I just wanted to ask a question. The maturity of borrowings shows that the group, which I presume is mainly HBRC in the group part, has a massive amount of the debt at short term. Have you got any sense of how that is being managed? Oh, you may have different numbering to me, I imagine. It's the maturity, table 20B.
Right.
Maturity analysis borrowing. First time I've seen it to be so short, it surprised me. And I'm just wondering how that's all working from your understanding. It's quite a major exposure to a short term. It's 125, table 20, bracket B. Are they running it on the bank bill rate, are they?
I'm not 100% sure. Heath would be the one.
Okay, well, the next question...
I can definitely find out.
I mean, the end of the world doesn't, if you don't know the answer, the end of the world.
Could we save that question perhaps for the HBRC discussion later today?
And the other one could be the same question, 129, which is the liabilities on annual leave. This organisation, and we had a major discussion, I remember Councillor Rimersell raising it about annual leave and sick leave. This organisation is larger than the staff of HBRC, but the cost of annual leave that presumably is sitting in the port seems to be extraordinarily high. It's more than double this council. Sorry.
That was explained during the port presentation last year at the annual general meeting, and that it was over some special provision for extra leave for those that have been engaged in particular projects with regard to the tug, and so that wasn't unusual. I think if we go back to the Port Annual General Meeting, that you will find some explanations around those there.
The council should be looking at the group accounts now, because there are some really big movements in there which affect the balance sheet of the total group. Now, I'm not suggesting we solve it here, but in terms of the annual report, they do distort it quite interestingly. I don't say negatively. There's some positive distortions as well. Yep.
Further questions? Any further comments, Mr. Collins? Or
No, it's just really if they're happy. Yeah.
okay, happy to move. Yeah. Councillor Douglas is happy to move. Councillor Scott, you wish to speak? Councillor Douglas. Councillor Scott.
Mr. Chairman, this is the annual report. Obviously, it's based on the performance of the previous year, and we've already debated the adoption of it. It has now been through the auditors, and there's those adjustments that need to be made that we need to acknowledge. So, what happens? There is a commitment in this report, and the reporting against being able to meet that commitment, as far as rates movement went, has been met. So, I think that is a very good result. So.
Other speakers, please.
Chairman, I'd just congratulate the staff on producing it. As Councillor Scott said, it's been through several iterations, and we did discuss the draft at an earlier meeting, so this really is just a tidy up of decisions that Council's made, but we should acknowledge the amount of work that's gone into it, and in my view it's a fairly successful report, so I think it's something that we can be quite proud of.
Other speakers you wish to sum up? Councillor Douglas? Okay, I'll put that motion then. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. We've got a couple of minutes.